Might be a little loud with the wind. I'm not sure. I wanted to I'm by the water here. We'll do a little, it's not so much a teaching. I got a few things I need to do, take care of today. But I wanted to discuss a little bit about some of the things I'm talking about, some of the stuff we're dealing with. Maybe if I go down here, it'll be less windy. These off-the-cuff videos, I might teach a little longer. What I want you to see is this case they're dealing with and that I'm commenting on. You say, John, is it true that the district attorney and the local prosecutors already multiple crimes have been already discerned and admitted and seen? Yes, it is. In this case, I've been posting on the murder conviction of Hayden. At one point in this DA's office, this girl who was prosecuting the case for the district attorney, whose name is Jenny Dorsey, she felt it was wrong to withhold evidence of innocence or self-defense, and she asked the district attorney himself, should we reveal this evidence that the medical examiner believed that the gunshot wound could have been contact wound, which would have been evidence for the defense. And District Attorney Skirka said no, and Jenny Dorsey in court testified how he explained to her medical examiners over time can evolve in their opinions. Now, why is that a lie? Because he pressured that medical examiner to change his testimony. You saw that. Second, which is a crime. Second, after that happened, he got caught as a criminal. He was caught as a criminal. Then he retaliated against a lady in his office who was Jenny Dorsey, and he moved her to another position. And the Kohler Times got wind of it because that's also a crime. It's called retaliation. He retaliated against his prosecutors for trying to give actual information that would have testified to the innocence of the person he was trying to convict. This is not justice. And the Kohler Times they also sent a Freedom of Information request to the DA. They were all fighting that. And they asked him that day, we would like to know if you disciplined anybody in the last few days in your office. And he said no, which was a lie. He retaliated against her. That was another lie. Then later, they found out he did retaliate against his own prosecutor for trying to speak truth. This is all false testimony that this man is dealing with. Then the Kohler Times made another request. See, now you discern. Do you think he moved that woman to another position in his prosecutor's office simply because it was just time to move her, or did he retaliate? At the fire department, you did the way you retaliated at our fire department. I'm familiar with this. Chiefs and captains. The chief might have a long-standing complaint against one of the captains, which he did. Al Lopez was our union leader, and him and the chief butted heads a lot. And what he would do was move him to another shift. Now, officially, you can't say he disciplined that captain. Everybody knew in-house, that's how you got it. You take him out of all the people he works with, all the people he's familiar with, and you just move him. That's what Skirka did. And when the Kohler Times asked, okay, what else happened? He became silent. Now this man, through false testimony that you're seeing, through deception that you're seeing, was responsible for convictions. Even our city is the one city that Carlos de Luna was executed, and the anti-death penalty people used that one case, and they did a documentary on it, and the local Corpus Christi police were interviewed at that time, back in the day when Carlos de Luna was executed. And when I watched that documentary, you could almost see that the detectives and the police at that time who were working the case also lied about stuff. So it's not a light thing. I went to Church Unlimited, used to be Bay Area Church. The preacher's preaching on Revelation and all. But you know, just from the scriptures that were shared today in Revelation on the four horsemen and the apocalypse, you know, when I read in scripture that there's a judgment on the beast and the false prophet, and I've taken a different view. I'm not dispensational for those of you who study these things. But whenever I read those scriptures about judgment upon the beast and the false prophet, the prophet is a gift where you speak. And if you speak falsely, judgment comes upon you. And all of these convictions, there's enough. I was going to go record this down at the courthouse, but I didn't want to. I'm kind of on the other side of my prayer spot by the water here. But you already in court. They had to get that DA in court because the local defense attorneys have been saying for years that this DA uses false testimony. I've seen cases in our media where kids stood up in court and said, in court, he wants me to frame my friend. That was the case where they convicted that one kid. I think he's innocent, sent him away for life or whatever. So you think it's a small thing that you use false testimony to possibly, even Carlos de Luna, it's questionable whether or not Carlos de Luna was the one who murdered this person many years ago. And the judge, Pops knows the judge, knew the judge. He told me a story how there was a judge, Judge Mary, who left the bench years ago, and she was known on the streets because she used to rent a little room off of Leopard Street, an old hotel over there in a bad area. And Pops would tell me all the drug addicts, Judge Mary retired from the bench, all the addicts would live with her, and he thinks they might have even overdosed her. She died of an overdose. And I asked Pops, why did that judge do that, Pops? She was the one that presided over the case of the conviction. Pops said because she convicted an innocent man. That's when and then they put him to death. That's when I realized that was probably the case. Out of all the cases in the whole United States, the ones that anti-death penalty proponents use is that case. And it involved possible false testimony. Scripture is real strong against that. So you have enough evidence now for that Skroka to be in an orange jumpsuit to be immediately arrested. And I think it's possible they will. But there's enough that came out. Do you think that he moved that prosecutor, Jenny Dorsey, to another position immediately after she revealed the fact that they withheld evidence? You think, so you discern that. If he did, that's retaliation, it's a crime, he should be in prison. I don't want to comment on the other thing I was going to mention about him. Scripture says, he that has no rule over his own spirit is like a city that is broken down and without walls. And through certain things that you could see in the man's appearance, he has no discipline. Nor does he have discipline to speak truth. And I'm right where cops, cop used to ride my bumper right here. I mean, not slowly ride it, 100 miles an hour and then ride by him like, you criminals, you're criminals. Say, oh, John, maybe he did it just because. Nah, he made it known. We'll run your ass off the road. If we got to shoot you in the head, we'll shoot you in the head. Them to me. So you got an absolute criminal organization in the city of Corpus Christi. Corruption within the police department. Public statements of false testimony. On and on and on. Medical people. They need to be put in prison. They need to be put in prison. So, God will shine light. And this week, this case is still transpiring with the district attorney in this town. You have cases of known criminal acts committed by on-duty officers for years right here. This is the area I live, Flower Bluff. Years and years and years, these acts of everybody on the street. I could go pull anybody off the street that's been on the street using, oh yeah, we know that goes on. Happened to us. Retaliation. So there's enough evidence, that one part alone. Just remember that. Skirka said, oh no, we didn't discipline anybody in our office. And then they found out he did. He retaliated against his own prosecutor for trying to reveal truth. So he's infested with falsehood, that man. And anybody in his own office that says, wait a minute, there's evidence that this girl might be innocent, he retaliates against her. The beast and the false prophet pay, and even in a broader sense. Scripture has a lot about one of the 10 Commandments is that God hates false testimony. This man built his career on false testimony. I could give you case and case and case and case on that. The doctor in the Hannah Overton case, they were trying to make it sound like something that he did not agree to, and he had to come out publicly. And what's the history of these witnesses, John, when they come out publicly? The history is they work in coordination with corrupt cops in this town. And then they don't just use words, they physically beat the shit out of people. Threaten them. Pull up and I just saw a friend of mine just before I went to church. He lives all the way on the other side of Corpus Christi, a nice neighborhood. He told me there was drive-bys and shootings in his neighborhood. A truck, they burned a truck down, he says, every night. How in the hell can you have one side of Corpus Christi here, where I live right there, which is a very nice neighborhood, all the way on the other side of Corpus Christi hearing gunshots in his neighborhood every night? I don't know of any city, normally it's in the bad areas, all over the city. And you just ran a big article in the paper on how wonderful you are in the solving of crimes. You are criminals. You are criminals. You're fully aware of the crimes your own officers commit, and you let them go headlong. Just keep doing it. You're criminals. Arise, O God, and judge the earth, for thou shalt inherit all nations. So just this one video for you to understand, just in that one instance alone, when that prosecutor, Jenny Dorsey, realized they had medical evidence that could have exonerated a woman on trial for murder, they did all they could to pressure that medical examiner to change his opinion, and then to hide that from the public and to not have to go to court. So the DA would be innocent if it's true that they just moved Jenny Dorsey to another position simply out of thin air, or if he did it out of retaliation, it's a crime. Now you decide. You decide. You say, well, John, they get away with stuff. They sure do.